Good morning. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed Mother's Day last week and treated your mothers or motherly figures in your life very generously. This week, we're going to be talking about surrender in Sunday school, which is something that is not an easy topic to get through, but we're going to do it. So we are going to be reading out of 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 through 11. So go ahead, hit pause, read that, and come back. Go. And we're back. So a little background on this scripture. This is in the middle of Paul's second letter to the church in Corinth, and he's specifically talking about generosity and giving. He compares it to farming, and I don't know if you know anything about farming. I certainly do not. I have a terrible garden in my backyard currently. But he talks about the greater amount of seeds you plant, the seeds you sow, the better your chances of yielding a crop are, which mathematically makes sense, right? The more you put in, the more you'll get out. But I think it's important to look at this not as like a formula, like a mathematic formula, but as wisdom. Just because you put more seeds in doesn't necessarily mean you're going to yield as much crop. There's so many factors. There's drought or too much rain or rabbits eating all of your cucumbers, which is close to my heart. So looking at it as wisdom, because there's so many things that go into sowing seed. So the more you sow certainly increases your chances. And that is the wisdom in that. Paul, he continues to address the internal motivations for generosity. And he says, he talks about it, you will be blessed. The harvest isn't so the harvest isn't so that the farmer's going to be blessed with wealth. Certainly that is something that could come with it. They will have the farmer will have what they need with this big crop, and they will be content. But also, it gives them the ability not to spend extravagantly and to have for themselves the wealth, but to give generously at every occasion, which will lead others to thanking God, which I think is important to look at in this. Another important thing is when the motivation shouldn't be out of guilt. You shouldn't feel guilty that you have more than people. We live in a place where we all have more than a lot of people, most of the world. And it's not something to feel guilty about. But God calls us in verse 7, he calls us to be a cheerful giver. So I think it's important to look at what that is. And you can see my daughter's feet right here. That's pretty sweet. That makes for a good video. But anyway, it's important to be a cheerful giver and to have that heart and not feel that guilt because you have more than people, but give cheerfully. So I have some questions below. I hope you guys read them, discuss them, and talk about them, and really dive into what Paul's saying in 2 Corinthians. Thanks, guys.